The wind howled through the ancient forest as young Marcus stepped over the fallen tree trunk, his heart beating fast with every sound that echoed through the darkness around him. He had been walking for 3 days now, searching for something that everyone in his village said did not exist anymore. But he refused to believe their words because his grandfather had told him stories. Wonderful stories about a kingdom hidden deep within these woods. A kingdom filled with treasures and magic beyond imagination. Marcus was only 16 years old, but he had the courage of a warrior and the curiosity of a scholar, and nothing could stop him from finding the truth about the lost kingdom of Aldoria. His grandfather had passed away last winter, leaving behind only a worn leather journal and a strange golden key that hung around Marcus's neck even now, bouncing against his chest as he walked through the thick undergrowth. The trees here were different from the ones near his village. They were taller, older, and their bark seemed to glow with a faint silver light when the moonlight touched them. Marcus had never seen anything like it before, and he knew in his heart that he was getting closer to something extraordinary, something that would change his life forever. He stopped to rest beside a small stream, the water crystal clear and cold as ice when he cupped it in his hands and brought it to his lips. The taste was sweet, sweeter than any water he had ever tasted, and it filled him with new energy and hope. As he sat there on a moss-covered rock, he pulled out his grandfather's journal and opened it to a page he had read 100 times before. The writing was old and faded, but Marcus knew every word by heart. When the moon rises above the 3 peaks and the silver trees begin to sing, the path to Aldoria will reveal itself to those who carry the key and believe with all their heart. Marcus looked up at the sky and saw the moon climbing higher, and in the distance, he could see 3 mountain peaks standing tall against the starlit sky. His excitement grew as he realized that tonight might be the night he would finally discover if his grandfather's stories were true or just beautiful dreams of an old man. He continued walking, following the stream as it wound through the forest, and soon he began to hear something strange. Something magical. The trees around him started to make sounds, soft musical notes that filled the air like a gentle melody, and Marcus felt tears forming in his eyes because he knew what this meant. The silver trees were singing, just as his grandfather had written. He ran forward, his feet barely touching the ground, and suddenly, the forest opened up before him, revealing a sight that made him gasp with wonder and disbelief. There, hidden in a valley surrounded by the glowing silver trees, stood the ruins of an ancient city, its towers and walls covered in vines, but still magnificent, still beautiful after all these centuries. "Aldoria," Marcus whispered, his voice trembling with emotion as he looked upon the lost kingdom for the first time. But he was not alone in his discovery, for as he stood there at the edge of the forest, he heard footsteps behind him, and when he turned around, he saw 3 figures emerging from the shadows, their faces hidden beneath dark hoods. "So, the boy has found it," one of them said, his voice deep and menacing. "We have been following you for days, young one, waiting for you to lead us here." Marcus felt fear grip his heart, but he stood his ground and faced the strangers with determination in his eyes. "Who are you, and what do you want?" he demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. The tallest of the 3 stepped forward and pulled back his hood, revealing a scarred face and cold gray eyes that seemed to pierce right through Marcus. "My name is Vorn, and I am a treasure hunter, and you, little boy, have just made me a very rich man." The other 2 laughed, their voices echoing through the quiet valley, and Marcus knew that he was in terrible danger. These men had no interest in the history or the magic of Aldoria. They only wanted to steal its treasures and sell them to the highest bidder. "I will not let you destroy this place," Marcus said, his hand moving to the golden key around his neck. "My grandfather dedicated his whole life to protecting the secrets of Aldoria, and I will do the same." Vorn smiled, a cruel and ugly smile that sent shivers down Marcus's spine. "Your grandfather was a fool, and so are you. Now step aside, boy, before you get hurt." But Marcus did not move. Instead, he gripped the golden key tightly and felt a warm sensation spreading through his body, as if the key itself was responding to his courage and determination. The key began to glow, brighter and brighter, until a beam of golden light shot forth and struck the ground before the three treasure hunters, creating a wall of fire that blocked their path. Vorn and his companions stumbled backward in shock and fear, their eyes wide with disbelief at what they had just witnessed. "What kind of magic is this?" Vorn shouted, his voice filled with anger and confusion. Marcus was just as surprised as they were, but he did not waste this opportunity. He turned and ran toward the ancient city, his feet carrying him faster than he had ever run before, and behind him, he could hear Vorn screaming orders at his men to find another way around the flames. As Marcus entered through the crumbling gates of Eldoria, he felt a strange sensation wash over him, as if he had stepped through an invisible barrier into another world. The air here was different, charged with energy and magic, and the ruins around him seemed less ruined than they had appeared from the outside. He kept running, deeper and deeper into the city, until he came to a great plaza with a fountain in its center, and there, standing beside the fountain as if she had been waiting for him all along, was a girl about his own age with silver hair and eyes that sparkled like stars. "Welcome to Eldoria, Marcus," she said, her voice like music. "We have been expecting you for a very long time." Marcus stared at the mysterious girl with silver hair, his mind racing with 1,000 questions that he did not know how to ask. How did she know his name, and what did she mean when she said they had been expecting him? He had so many things he wanted to say, but all he could manage was a single word: "Who?" The girl smiled gently and stepped closer to him, her bare feet making no sound on the ancient stones of the plaza. "My name is Luna, and I am the last guardian of Eldoria," she explained, her voice calm and soothing like a gentle breeze on a summer day. "Your grandfather visited this place many years ago, when he was young like you, and he made a promise to protect our secrets until the day someone worthy could take his place." Marcus felt his heart skip a beat as he listened to her words. His grandfather had actually been here. He had seen this magical city with his own eyes and had kept its existence a secret for all those years. "My grandfather never told me he came here," Marcus said, his voice filled with wonder and a little bit of hurt. "Why did he keep it a secret from me?" Luna's expression became sad, and she looked away toward the distant towers of the city. "He wanted to protect you, Marcus, because this place is not just beautiful and magical. It is also very dangerous. The power that lies within Eldoria can bring great good or terrible evil, depending on who controls it, and there are many people in the world who would do anything to possess that power." As if to prove her point, they both heard shouting in the distance, and Marcus knew that Vorn and his treasure hunters had found a way around the wall of fire. "They are coming," he said, fear creeping back into his voice. "Those men followed me here, and they want to steal everything." Luna nodded, her face becoming serious and determined. "I know about them. I have been watching you since you entered the forest 3 days ago. But do not worry, Marcus, because Eldoria has many defenses that those greedy men cannot overcome, at least not without the key." She pointed to the golden key hanging around Marcus's neck, and suddenly he understood why his grandfather had given it to him. "This key," he said slowly, "it is not just a symbol. It actually does something, does it not?" "It does much more than something," Luna replied with a mysterious smile. "That key is the heart of Eldoria's magic, and only someone from your bloodline can use its full power. Your grandfather was the last keeper, and now the responsibility has passed to you." Marcus looked down at the key, seeing it with new eyes now, understanding that it was more precious than all the gold and jewels in the world. But he also felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on his shoulders, and he wondered if he was truly ready for such an important task. "I am just a boy from a small village," he said, his voice uncertain. "I do not know anything about magic or ancient kingdoms or being a keeper. What if I fail?" Luna placed her hand on his shoulder, and her touch was warm and comforting. "Your grandfather had the same doubts when he first came here, but he learned and grew stronger, and so will you. The key chose you, Marcus, and that means you have everything you need inside you already. You just have to believe in yourself." Before Marcus could respond, they heard the sound of boots on stone, and Vorn appeared at the entrance of the plaza with his two companions beside him. The treasure hunter's face was red with anger, and his clothes were singed from the magical fire, but his determination to claim Eldoria's treasures had not weakened at all. "There you are, boy," Vorn growled, his hand resting on the sword at his hip. "And who is this silver-haired witch you have found? Another guardian of secrets that need to be broken?" Luna stepped forward, positioning herself between Marcus and the threat, her silver hair flowing in a wind that seemed to come from nowhere. "You are not welcome here, treasure hunter. Leave now, and no harm will come to you. But if you stay, you will face the consequences of your greed." Vorn laughed loudly, and his men laughed with him. "A little girl thinks she can threaten me? I have killed men twice my size in battles across the kingdom, and you expect me to be afraid of a child with fancy hair?" He drew his sword and started walking toward them, but with every step he took, the ground beneath his feet began to shake. The fountain behind Marcus and Luna started to glow with a brilliant blue light, and water rose from its basin, forming shapes in the air that looked like warriors made entirely of liquid. Vorn stopped in his tracks, his confidence finally shaking as he watched the water warriors take form. There were 6 of them, each one holding a sword and shield made of the same magical water, and they positioned themselves in a line between the intruders and the 2 young guardians. "What is this sorcery?" one of Vorn's men shouted, his voice high with fear. "This is the power of Eldoria," Luna replied, her voice strong and commanding. "The city protects itself and those who serve it. Now leave before these warriors show you what they can do." The third man, the one who had not spoken until now, turned and ran without hesitation, disappearing back into the ruins as fast as his legs could carry him. The second man looked at Vorn with pleading eyes, clearly wanting to follow his companion. But Vorn was not ready to give up. His pride and greed were too strong. "I did not come all this way to run from a magic trick," he snarled, raising his sword. "There is treasure here, and I will have it." He charged at the water warriors, and Marcus watched in amazement as the battle began. Vorn was indeed a skilled fighter, and his blade cut through the first warrior, turning it back into ordinary water. But as soon as that warrior fell, another took its place, rising from the fountain like a ghost from the grave. Luna grabbed Marcus's hand and pulled him toward a passage on the other side of the plaza. "We must go," she urged. "The warriors will not hold him forever, and there is something important I must show you, something that will help you understand your destiny." Marcus took one last look at the battle, watching as Vorn struggled against the endless supply of water warriors, and then he followed Luna into the darkness of the passage, leaving the sound of combat behind them. They ran through twisting corridors lined with glowing crystals that lit their way like tiny stars embedded in the walls. The passage went deeper and deeper underground, and Marcus could feel the magic growing stronger around him, pressing against his skin like a warm blanket. Finally, they emerged into a vast chamber, and what Marcus saw there took his breath away completely. In the center of the enormous chamber stood a tree unlike anything Marcus had ever imagined. A tree made entirely of crystal that reached up toward the ceiling so high above them that it disappeared into darkness. The tree's branches spread out in every direction, and hanging from those branches were thousands of small orbs that glowed with soft light in every color of the rainbow. "This is the heart tree," Luna said softly, her voice filled with reverence and love. "It is the source of all magic in Aldoria, and it has been here since the very beginning, since before the first stone was laid and the first tower was built." Marcus walked closer to the tree, feeling drawn to it by some invisible force, and as he approached, the orbs on the branches began to glow brighter, as if they were happy to see him. "What are those lights?" he asked, reaching out his hand toward the nearest orb. "They are memories," Luna explained, coming to stand beside him. "Every person who has ever lived in Aldoria left a piece of themselves in this tree when they passed on, and their knowledge and wisdom and love have been preserved here for thousands of years. When your grandfather came here, he added his own memories to the tree, and they have been waiting for you ever since." Marcus felt tears forming in his eyes again, knowing that some part of his grandfather was still alive in this magical place. "Can I see his memories?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Luna smiled and nodded. "You can do more than see them, Marcus. You can experience them as if you were living them yourself. Just place your hand on the trunk of the tree and think about your grandfather, and the tree will do the rest." With trembling hands, Marcus stepped forward and placed his palm against the cool crystal surface of the heart tree. At first, nothing happened, and he worried that he was doing something wrong. But then the golden key around his neck began to glow, and suddenly he was no longer standing in the chamber. He was in a meadow filled with wildflowers, and the sun was shining brightly overhead. And walking toward him through the tall grass was a young man with kind eyes and a warm smile. It took Marcus a moment to recognize him, but when he did, his heart nearly burst with joy. "Grandfather!" he cried out, running toward the young version of the man he had loved so much. The young man laughed and opened his arms wide. "Hello, Marcus. I knew you would find your way here eventually. You always were a curious one, just like me." Marcus threw his arms around his grandfather, and even though he knew this was just a memory, it felt completely real. "I miss you so much," he said, holding on tightly. "After you left, everything felt so empty and sad." His grandfather gently pulled back and looked at him with those familiar, kind eyes. "I know, my boy, and I'm sorry that I could not stay longer, but my time had come, and some things even magic cannot change. But I left this memory here for you because I wanted you to know how proud I am of you, and because there are things you need to learn before you can truly become the keeper." They walked together through the meadow, and Marcus's grandfather began to tell him the history of Aldoria, the real history that had been lost to the outside world for centuries. "Long ago," he explained, "Aldoria was a great kingdom where humans and magical beings lived together in peace and harmony. The people of Aldoria discovered how to use the power of the heart tree to create wonderful things, bridges that spanned the widest rivers, gardens that grew food all year round, and medicines that could cure almost any illness. But as time passed, some people became greedy and wanted to use the magic for themselves. They tried to take control of the heart tree, and in their foolishness, they caused a disaster that nearly destroyed everything. The wise leaders of Aldoria realized that the world was not ready for such powerful magic. So they used the last of their strength to hide the kingdom away, protected by barriers that only the keepers could pass through. For generations, our family has protected this secret," Marcus's grandfather continued. "We have watched over Aldoria from afar, visiting when we could, making sure that the magic stayed safe until the day when the world might be ready to receive it again. Now that responsibility falls to you, Marcus." Marcus felt overwhelmed by everything he was learning. "But how will I know when the world is ready?" he asked. "And what am I supposed to do until then?" His grandfather smiled and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You will learn, just as I learned, and Luna will be your guide, just as she was mine. She may look young, but she is much older than she appears. She is bound to this place by magic, and she has watched over it for longer than you can imagine. Marcus thought about the silver-haired girl who had welcomed him to Eldoria, and he realized there was so much about her that he did not know. "Is she human?" he asked. "She was once, long ago," his grandfather replied. "But she gave up her mortal life to protect the heart tree, and in return, the tree gave her eternal life. She cannot leave Eldoria, but within these walls, she is safe and content. And she has been waiting for someone like you to share the burden of guardianship." The meadow around them began to fade, and Marcus knew that the memory was coming to an end. He grabbed his grandfather's hand, not wanting to let go. "Please, stay a little longer." "I am always with you, Marcus," his grandfather said, his voice growing distant. "In your heart, in your memories, and now in this tree. Remember what I have told you, and trust in yourself. You have the strength to do what must be done. I have always believed in you." And then the meadow was gone, and Marcus was back in the chamber, his hand still pressed against the heart tree, tears streaming down his face. Luna stood beside him, her expression understanding and compassionate. "Did you find what you were looking for?" she asked gently. Marcus wiped his eyes and nodded. "I found more than I expected," he said. "I understand now why my grandfather kept this secret, and I understand what I need to do." But before he could say anything more, they heard a sound from the passage behind them, the sound of footsteps approaching, and Marcus knew that Vorn had somehow gotten past the water warriors. "He is coming," Marcus said, his hand moving to the golden key. "And this time, I am ready for him." Vorn stumbled into the chamber, his clothes torn and his face covered with scratches and bruises from his battle with the water warriors. His sword was still in his hand, but it was chipped and damaged, and his once confident expression had been replaced by something wild and desperate. When he saw the crystal tree glowing in the center of the room, his eyes went wide with greed. "So this is what you were protecting," he said, his voice raspy and tired but still filled with hunger. "A tree made of crystal. Do you have any idea how much this would be worth? I could buy my own kingdom with something like this." Marcus stepped forward, positioning himself between Vorn and the heart tree. "This is not something you can sell," he said firmly. "This tree is alive. It holds the memories and magic of an entire civilization. If you try to take it, you will destroy everything." Vorn laughed, but it was a hollow sound without any real joy. "You expect me to believe that? It is just a fancy decoration, nothing more. Now move aside, boy, or I will move you myself." Luna raised her hand, and the air around her began to shimmer with silver light. "You have been warned multiple times, treasure hunter. The magic of Eldoria has tried to show you mercy, but if you continue on this path, there will be consequences that you cannot escape." "Mercy?" Vorn spat the word like it was poison. "I do not need mercy from a girl or a boy or a glowing tree. I have worked too hard and come too far to leave empty-handed." He charged forward with his damaged sword raised high, aiming straight at Marcus. But this time, Marcus did not run or freeze in fear. Instead, he grabbed the golden key and held it up, and the key responded to his determination with a burst of brilliant light. The light formed a shield in front of Marcus, and when Vorn's sword struck it, the blade shattered into 100 pieces. The treasure hunter cried out in pain as the force of the impact threw him backward, sending him crashing to the ground several feet away. "How is this possible?" Vorn gasped, staring at his broken sword in disbelief. "You are just a child." Marcus was just as surprised by what had happened, but he tried not to show it. He looked at the key in his hand, understanding now that it truly was connected to him in a way he was only beginning to comprehend. "I told you," he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "This place and its magic are under my protection now." Vorn slowly got to his feet, his body shaking with anger and exhaustion. He had no weapon left, and the wild look in his eyes had grown even more dangerous. "If I cannot take the treasure, then no one will have it," he snarled. I will destroy this place and everything in it. He pulled something from his pocket, a small glass vial filled with a dark red liquid, and Marcus felt Luna tense beside him. "What is that?" he asked. "Dragon fire extract," Luna said, her voice filled with fear for the first time since Marcus had met her. "It is an ancient and forbidden substance that burns everything it touches, even magic. If he breaks that vial near the heart tree, it could cause irreparable damage." Vaughn smiled, pleased that he finally had something to use against them. "That is right, little guardian. I bought this from a very expensive dealer for emergencies, just like this one. Now, you are going to let me walk out of here with as many of those glowing orbs as I can carry, or I will burn your precious tree to ashes." Marcus felt panic rising in his chest. He could not let Vaughn destroy the heart tree. It contained his grandfather's memories and the wisdom of countless generations. But he also could not let the treasure hunter steal the orbs, which Luna had said contained the very essence of Eldoria's people. Luna placed her hand on his arm and spoke to him in a whisper. "The key can do more than create shields, Marcus. It can also sense what is in a person's heart. Look at Vaughn with the key, and you will see the truth of who he really is." Marcus did not understand what she meant, but he trusted her. He held up the key and focused on Vaughn, and suddenly his vision changed. He could see beyond the treasure hunter's angry exterior, deep into the core of his being, and what he saw there surprised him completely. Behind all the greed and anger, there was pain, so much pain. Marcus saw flashes of memories that did not belong to him. A young boy crying in a dark room, an empty stomach that had not been fed for days, hands that reached out for help but were pushed away again and again. Vaughn had not always been a cruel treasure hunter. He had once been a frightened child who had learned that the only way to survive was to take whatever he could before someone else took it from him. Marcus lowered the key, and his expression softened. "I know why you are like this," he said quietly. "I can see the pain you carry inside you, the fear that has driven you to do terrible things." Vaughn's hand trembled, and for a moment, his mask of anger slipped. "You do not know anything about me," he said, but his voice lacked its earlier conviction. "I know that you were alone and scared and that no one helped you when you needed it most," Marcus continued. "I know that you taught yourself not to trust anyone because everyone you trusted let you down. But it does not have to be this way, Vaughn. You do not have to keep hurting yourself and others just to feel safe." Luna watched in amazement as Marcus spoke, seeing a wisdom in the young boy that reminded her so much of his grandfather. The chamber grew quiet, and even the heart tree seemed to be listening. Vaughn's hand lowered slightly, and tears began to form in his eyes. Tears he had not allowed himself to cry in many, many years. "You do not understand," he whispered. "I have done too many bad things. There is no going back for someone like me." "There is always a way back," Marcus said, taking a careful step forward. "My grandfather told me that everyone has the capacity for change, that it is never too late to choose a different path. The magic of the heart tree can help you. It can show you what your life could be if you let go of all that anger and fear." The vial of dragonfire extract slipped from Vaughn's fingers, but Marcus dove forward and caught it before it could hit the ground. The treasure hunter did not even try to stop him. All the fight had gone out of him, replaced by something that looked almost like hope. "Do you really think someone like me could change?" Vaughn asked, his voice small and uncertain like the frightened child he had once been. Marcus nodded and held out his hand. "I know you can." Vaughn stared at Marcus's outstretched hand for what felt like an eternity, his whole body trembling with emotions he had buried deep inside himself for so many years. The chamber was silent, except for the soft humming of the heart tree, its crystal branches swaying gently as if encouraging the broken man to make the right choice. Finally, slowly Vaughn reached out and took Marcus's hand. The moment their hands touched, the golden key around Marcus's neck blazed with light brighter than the sun, and both of them gasped as they felt the magic flowing through them. Vorn fell to his knees, overwhelmed by sensations he had never experienced before: warmth, acceptance, forgiveness. All the darkness that had lived inside him for so long began to dissolve like shadows fleeing from the dawn. Luna came forward and placed her hand on Vorn's shoulder. "The heart tree accepts you," she said gently. "It sees the good that still exists within you, the good that you tried so hard to destroy. From this moment forward, you have a choice. You can return to the life you knew, or you can stay here and help us protect Aldoria." Vorn looked up at her with tears streaming down his face. "Why would you trust me after everything I have done?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief and shame. "I threatened to destroy this place. I tried to hurt both of you." Marcus helped him stand up and smiled. "Because my grandfather taught me that people are more than their worst moments. You made bad choices, but that does not mean you are a bad person. And besides, we could use someone with your skills to help defend this place. Those water warriors can only do so much." For the first time in longer than he could remember, Vorn laughed, and it was a real laugh, filled with genuine happiness. "You are a strange boy, Marcus," he said, shaking his head in wonder. "Your grandfather must have been an incredible man." "He was," Marcus agreed, glancing at the heart tree where his grandfather's memories now lived forever. "And I hope that one day I can be even half as good as he was." Over the next few weeks, many things changed in the hidden kingdom of Aldoria. Vorn proved himself to be sincere in his desire to change, working alongside Luna to repair the damage that had been done during his attack. He used his knowledge of the outside world to strengthen the kingdom's defenses, and in return, the magic of the heart tree slowly healed the wounds in his heart. Marcus learned more about his role as keeper, spending hours each day with Luna as she taught him the secrets of the golden key and the ancient magic that flowed through every stone of the city. He discovered that he could communicate with the heart tree directly, asking it questions and receiving answers in the form of visions and feelings. The tree showed him glimpses of Aldoria's glorious past, festivals filled with music and dancing, scholars debating ideas in great halls, children playing in gardens that bloomed with flowers that no longer existed in the outside world. But the tree also showed him the future, a future where Aldoria might one day open its gates to the world again, sharing its magic and wisdom with all of humanity. It would not happen soon, the tree warned. The world was still too divided, too afraid, too quick to destroy what it did not understand. But someday, when enough hearts had changed, when enough people had learned to see beyond their own fears and desires, Aldoria would rise again. One evening, as the three of them sat together in the plaza, watching the sun set behind the ancient towers, Marcus felt a peace settle over him that he had never known before. He was no longer the uncertain boy who had left his village in search of a legend. He was the keeper of Aldoria, the guardian of magic and memory, and he had found a new family in Luna and Vorn. "I have been thinking," Marcus said, breaking the comfortable silence. "I need to return to my village soon. My mother will be worried about me, and I have been gone for too long already." Luna nodded, though there was sadness in her silver eyes. "I understand," she said. "The keeper must live in both worlds, the magical and the ordinary, serving as a bridge between them. Your grandfather did the same, visiting when he could and protecting our secret from afar. But you will come back, will you not?" Vorn asked, his gruff voice betraying his concern. "This place needs you, Marcus. We need you." Marcus smiled and touched the golden key around his neck. "This key will always bring me back," he promised. "No matter how far I go or how long I am away, Aldoria will always be my home, and you will always be my family." The next morning, Marcus stood at the edge of the forest where his journey had begun, looking back at the silver trees that marked the boundary of the hidden kingdom. Luna and Vorn stood with him, their expressions a mixture of pride and sorrow. "Remember everything I have taught you," Luna said, embracing him tightly. "And do not forget to practice using the key. Its power will grow stronger the more you use it." Vorn clapped him on the shoulder with a firm hand. "Stay safe out there, boy," he said, his eyes glistening. "And if you ever run into any trouble, just call my name. I have a feeling this key of yours can send messages as well as open doors." Marcus laughed and hugged them both one last time before turning to face the forest. The path ahead was long, and he knew that his life would never be the same as it was before. He had responsibilities now, secrets to keep, and a legacy to protect. But he also had something he had been missing ever since his grandfather passed away: hope. As he walked through the ancient trees, the golden key warm against his chest, Marcus made a silent promise to himself and to everyone he had left behind. He would live a good life, learn everything he could, and prepare for the day when Eldoria's magic could finally be shared with the world. He would honor his grandfather's memory by being kind and brave and true, and he would never forget the lessons he had learned in the Lost Kingdom. The forest seemed to part before him as he walked, the silver trees singing their soft melody one last time, bidding him farewell until his next visit. And far behind him, in a chamber deep beneath the ancient city, the heart tree glowed a little brighter, its crystal branches reaching toward the sky as if celebrating the dawn of a new age. The story of Marcus, the Keeper of Eldoria, was only just beginning.